Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Speed Radio on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along. As always, no matter where or how you're listening, hopefully you're enjoying your day. And if you're listening on one of our great radio station affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref in Evansville, always the right call. Or in the region, on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne, on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked where you got it all day, every day. No reason to go anywhere else. And if you're following along on YouTube, you know the routine. Hit the subscribe, like buttons, and all that good stuff. Appreciate you being with us on this day as always. Expecting some thunderstorms today. Pretty nice day yesterday. Got to get out a little bit, but not much. But the sports world keeps rolling on as names keep coming out of the portal into other programs. Indiana continues to get commitments on the football side of things as they bolster their 26 class, continuing to get some nice pickups for Kurt Cignetti. And something that I've noticed as well is there's start to expect to see more Indiana players' names being called at the NFL draft as we continue to go forward under the Kurt Cignetti era. There are already several that are expected next year. You've got, the All-Americans like D'Angelo Pons and Aiden Fisher and Mikael Kamara. Who else may jump up and surprise? Several. You never know. That's the deal with working your butt off. That's how you get to where you got to go. Appreciate everybody hitting us up on the hotline as well. Andrew says Indiana basketball portal Hall ranked number 1 by the portal report. Yeah. Who's the portal report? I'm not sure that I can imagine Indiana's recruiting class being ranked number 1. Other than having quite a few guys in it. And say Tucker DeVries, they haven't really landed anybody of note. I was just thinking of that. We've seen how that works under Kurt Cignetti, so that's not an issue, but I'm surprised. I've never heard of portal report, but I just don't see Indiana's class being ranked number 1. But, hey, what do I know? There you go. Gritty says it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Costs nothing. Just 2 seconds of your time. But, I'm not sold on Indiana's recruiting class or portal class being the top portal class that there is. Because I was just looking at a moment ago, the some of the top players that have, or the top ranked portal players. Of course, I've lost where I had that, but there's Tucker DeVries is the top. Oh, he was the top ranked portal pull-in. He's the only top 25 that Indiana has. Maybe it's because of the sheer volume. Brian says if they land Baba Miller, he could see it being a top 10 maybe. I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, you add Bama Miller to Tucker DeVries and a bunch of other guys who were good players, and I'm not saying that they could not become stars this fall, because that's what happens a lot of the time. I mean, I think the Sturts kid that you never heard of before last year, who was playing Division II basketball 2 years ago, is like the number 3 or 4 ranked portal player. So things change. Things change, man. Guys get better. Illinois, though, continues to do what Illinois does under Brad Underwood, landing a big fish. Andrei Stojakovic narrowed his list of schools down to 3 on Sunday: Illinois, North Carolina, and Stanford. And then I believe he committed to Illinois already. So Brad Underwood, rather, doing it again. Man, that dude pulls in the NBA level players year after year, but he can't quite get. I mean, they're in the top 4 of the Big Ten year after year at a Big Ten championship, but it's like they're bumping up against it. And you want to talk about someone who is probably as frustrated with the transfer portal as anybody, and that would have to be Brad Underwood. I mean, look at the players he loses. He just lost that Mortez Johnson, the hell of a freshman, to Illinois that would have really helped cement his team for next season. But instead, it will help cement Michigan's. But he does a heck of a job. Stojakovic came from Cal. Kansas transfer Ryan Griffith looks like he's either going to go to Texas A&M or Miami. Darian Reed from Alabama. They're losing some guys, it looks like. What's going on at Alabama? Maybe it's the money, who knows? But they're going all over the place. North Florida transfer Josh Harris, of course, had a productive freshman year at North Florida. He hit the portal. Indiana and Miami. He was visiting with Indiana this week. But he's a top listed player. 6'8" big man. But this begs the question, maybe they're working on this behind the scenes with Frederico, or one of the other names that were mentioned as far as bigs. But Indiana, I'm not going to say I know what Darren DeVries needs, because I'm not running his program and I don't have the vision of what he wants to do. But I would have to think common sense would dictate you need a couple of guys that you would call a big. Not one that has to be anchored to the rim, but a guy that's tall, 6'11", 7 foot, that can step out. I know those guys are hard to come by. Maybe they should have been a priority at the beginning of all of this instead of filling up the easier things, because they're going to need that. You're not going to, while I'm fully confident Indiana is going to be very successful under Darren DeVries, I am not imagining a team that's built on guys that are 6'8" and under. I mean, what Reed is 6'10", right? But the majority of this team is 6'8" and under, and looking at more guys of that ilk. Maybe it works. What do I know? We will find out. Frederico to Texas A&M. I missed that one. Pacers seal the deal at 6 o'clock on the NBA channel tonight. Yes, they have the opportunity to wrap up that series with Milwaukee at home as they are up 3-1, and it was announced as feared for Damian Lillard. Very unfortunate. He tore his Achilles. Not only did he tear his Achilles, but there's concern that he won't even be back for next season. You hear me talk about the Achilles all the time. That just, it scares me to death. But he has been diagnosed with a torn left Achilles tendon. He'll undergo surgery. An MRI revealed the severity of the injury, which will not only end Lillard's season, but it puts his 25-26 season in jeopardy because of the extended recovery time of this injury. We've seen Aaron Rodgers be hit with that. He suffered the injury during Sunday night's 129-103 Game 4 loss to Indiana. It was just a non-contact injury. That's weird. One of the worst injuries an athlete can get can simply happen, and often does, without contact, just by moving. Yeah, so the Pacers, hopefully they can wrap things up and get their place, punch their ticket to the next round. The Warriors, they're on their way to the next round. They lead the Rockets right now, 3-1 after winning 109-106 last night. Little resurgence of old school. The Cavs put the Miami Heat out of their misery, sweeping that series 4-0. Are the Cavs this good or the Heat this bad? Cavaliers won 138-83 last night. I'm not good in math, but that's like a 55-point win. How is that possible in a playoff game? A playoff game. That I just don't get that. Especially it's not like you're playing the number one seed. You're not playing the Celtics. Cleveland is the top seed. My bad. I was thinking of the Knicks. Got excited there for a minute. Even with that, that's still way too. You can't lose by that margin in a playoff game. I mean, that's a historic blowout for certain. But there you go. More NBA playoff action coming as the Pacers look to wrap it up. Hopefully they can get things done. Make sure you're following Chris Denary on that. Good friend of the show. He'll be with us this Thursday, as usual. We'll talk about that. Mike DeCourcy with us today. Dylan Sinn also moved him around a little bit. I talked about that pickup by Illinois, Andrei Stojakovic. Man, this dude, he's one of the 18 points a game. You remember his dad. I think that I mentioned this yesterday, maybe not. Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred met with POTUS, Trump, a few weeks ago, discussed numerous things, immigration policies for one, how they could affect players from Venezuela, Cuba, etc. But they also talked about Pete Rose, and the commissioner is considering a petition to have Rose removed from the Major League Baseball's permanently banned list, which currently prevents him from being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Trump has said he is planning on giving a pardon to Rose, posthumously pardon him for his crimes, I guess, because it has not always the tax evasion thing. I guess that's what it is. but nothing has happened since then. That it's just kind of gotten quiet. But we'll see how that goes. Hey, we got plenty more coming, including the great Mike DeCourcy. We'll talk to him about that. We've got more coming up on the other side. Got to take a quick break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with you with much more on the other side. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. I hope you are enjoying the start of your week. And if not, we'll try to spruce it up with a little sprinkle of Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks. How are you, sir?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
Cannot complain. If I was any better, I'd be you, my friend.
Yes, with another championship, a fresh championship of the Premier League. I wore my Liverpool zip up to celebrate the Reds winning the Premier League on Sunday.
Yeah, that might be the only league the Reds can win. Oh, I'm talking about my Cincinnati.
Good one. I like it.
Boy, man. I was just getting ready to pull up the baseball standings. I haven't looked in a minute. Just as
they're actually in second place, surprisingly.
That is surprisingly, because it seems like every time I would look, they're blowing a 9th inning lead, and I'm like, what? Ugh. Somebody fix that bullpen, man.
They're on a roll. As I said to my wife on Sunday, I wish they could play the Colorado Rockies every day. Every game. They might go 162-0. They might be the first.
Is that in Colorado happening, or is that in Cincinnati?
They swept the Rockies over the weekend in Colorado. Then my wife said, "Hey, are the Reds on today?" I said, "There's no way they're going to make them play after they just came back from the West Coast." And I was wrong. They did. They played the Cardinals last night and won that one. So they're now multiple games over 500, as hard as that may be to believe.
Boy, that is that's a switch. Not accustomed to seeing that. But
well, that's what happens when you hire a Pittsburgh guy to manage your team. That's what happens.
That is true. I didn't realize he was a Pittsburgh guy.
Oh yeah, yes, Western Pennsylvania guy for sure.
Well, they definitely brought in, and the Reds have had some great managers over the years. That's the bad, funny thing. Of their roller coaster ride. They've had
but not recently.
Guys. No,
not recently. No. Bell was, what did he do?
Came up. He was at Louisville for all those years, man. He was just a minor league promotion that just never seemed to work out.
You look at his record in the minor leagues, it wasn't impressive. And then you make him a major leaguer and it wasn't impressive. And he had defenders all the time. The people who believed in the math, but they didn't win games. He didn't make them better. And that's the job. And I don't know whether this continues or not. I'm not saying it will. I think they still need a lot. But Terry Francona has won everywhere he's been. And he and I are more or less contemporaries. Grew up around the same time. So I was delighted that they hired him because I thought, okay, this guy's won. He won in Cleveland, for goodness sakes. If you can win in Cleveland, you should be able to win in Cincinnati.
I would certainly hope so. You buried the lead on the Reds. They're not just in second place. I would have stated it as they're only a game out of first, baby. That is maybe I should take a screenshot of that.
Yes. I'm afraid to show my wife that because she'll get hope. That's that. You don't want that.
Well, at least I don't have to be worried about being my friend Rick Bozich, who Rick.
Yes, he loves his White Sox fan. Yes,
and
I know.
They're quite possibly the worst franchise in Major League Baseball.
Oh, I think that's fair because
right now, I mean, and that's I'm not saying I don't mean like historically, which they can make a run for that. But right now, they're the worst franchise because they're just mired in the bottom. You look at Baltimore, who's last in the East. They were up. They recently were competing. The Los Angeles Angels, they're not that far from having been a competitive team. The Marlins, they buff around, but that's
here's something you need to remember about them.
Hey, Pittsburgh's in last.
Pittsburgh, like the Pirates are bad, and they have been bad for a very long time. But the difference between the Pirates and the White Sox is the Pirates are in one of the smallest markets in the major leagues, and the White Sox are in one of the largest. And even if you sliced Chicago in half and gave half to Chicago and half to the White Sox, you're still in the middle of the pack. So half to the Cubs and half to the White Sox. You're still in the middle of the pack in terms of market size. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Cleveland, they're all at Kansas City. They're all at the very bottom. But Chicago, like I said, one of the 5 biggest markets in the league. And like if you happen to say, okay, half goes to each of the 2, it's still middle of the pack. It's around, somewhere around 10, 11, 12, something like that for each of them. So there's no excuse to be as perpetually bad as the White Sox have been.
Yeah, and Andrew pointed out, because I had not gotten that far down the standings yet, but the Colorado Rockies.
Oh, yeah.
Won 4 games.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said what I said. I wasn't.
Were those forfeits? I'm like, wow. If you're that bad, I'm like, they are negative 72 in the run differential, which is I'm trying to look. That looks to be double anybody. The closest to that is they're double anybody else close to them as far as the run differential. They can't score, man. Whew. Colorado stinks.
So all right. So you said they're negative 72.
Yeah, and the run differential.
Right. Okay. So I just looked it up because I had to know the record for the 1900 plus, like 1900 forward, modern era baseball. Would considered it sets at the year 1900. The record for the worst is minus 349. So they are way on track to blow that record away. Way on track to get that. I mean, that's
when you're only winning 4 games, you've got a good opportunity.
I was thinking about the fact that their pitchers have to pitch in the thin air, and it does cause a problem. But the Reds starter Lodolo, who opened the game on Sunday, took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. So that's not always a full excuse. If the other guy can no-hit your guys and your guys are giving up 6 runs in the 1st inning, it's really not just the fact that you're playing in the altitude.
Yeah, the Cubbies, man, the teams for our area, it's a fight. You're either a Cubs fan, a Reds fan, or a Cardinals fan. There are a lot of White Sox people here as well, but
Right.
I would put the Cubs, Cardinals, and the Reds as the three that really have the fan base of here, and that's a pretty good battle because they're all in the same division. The Cubs in first, man, they're giving people hope in Chicago. That's a dangerous thing. Bartman may show back up.
Hey, they've won a World Series since Bartman, so his record has been cleansed, so to speak, because it did happen. There was a time when it seemed like it might never happen, but they did win 2016, and then it seems as though for the most part they decided that was plenty, and they wait another 100 years. I mean, let's be honest, they are
out.
With the fan support they have and the market size they have. They should be better than they've been annually since they broke through, and they have not gone anywhere since that 2016 World Series. The Cubs management / ownership not been getting it done.
Well, what does that say about the White Sox? Because I think about that all the time. I asked Rick about that. I'm like, how does a team that's in the third largest media market in the United States suck every year? And it's basically comes down to the owners. Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't care, I guess. Because
I don't know him. I don't know much about him other than what goes on to the field or the floor. But it doesn't seem like it's a priority. And I don't understand why own a team, especially after you've owned a team for a long time, which means if you sold it tomorrow, you'd make billions, like literal billions. So like, if you're in this, why aren't you in it to have fun and win? Like, why would you want to be unpopular with people and yelling at you that you're doing a terrible job? I don't understand the motivation. You get that a lot here in Pittsburgh. The guy who owns the Pirates is getting yelled at all the time. Now, I mean, again, he bought the team for X and he could sell it for X times 2 or 3. Like, okay, so why not just take the money? If you're not going to go ahead and try to compete, I know they're making okay money out of annually, with a little bit of revenue sharing and keeping the payroll low. They're still making money, but you could put that money in the bank and probably make as much. So like, why would you want to be so widely unpopular? That's the part of the ineffective ownership in Chicago, Pittsburgh, places like that I don't understand the motivation for it. I could, if I were that rich and I owned a team, I would never want to be the guy that everybody's yelling at, that I'm bad at my job or a bad owner. It would be something that would be totally unappealing to me. I'd either get them better or sell it because I wasn't good enough at it.
If I was that rich, I would probably be that arrogant and say, why the hell are we not winning?
But if you cared, you'd probably find a way to make it happen eventually.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I was that rich, I would think that there would be, I'm not all wealthy people are not arrogant, and but there's probably arrogance in all of successful people, not to a mean degree, but it's that edge of getting you up, and that's what I'm talking, especially in sports. But he knows what it takes. I guess he just sits back and polishes those 6 NBA championships that Michael Jordan handed him and doesn't care about anything else, thinking, well, that was lightning in a bottle and I'm good.
Well, but again, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're good, then why wouldn't you sell and get out and put the mountain of money somewhere? It doesn't, because if he sold the Bulls tomorrow, mountain of money. If he sold the White Sox tomorrow, mountain of money, because they're worth way more. Both of them. Like I said, literal billions that you would make if you sold the team in terms of. Oh yeah.
What do you think? What in the world did he buy the White Sox for? I mean, he may have gotten them on a blue light special. He may have paid $400 or $500 for them. I don't even know. Because he's owned them for 30 years.
According to Wikipedia, he paid $19 million for the White Sox.
Oh my God.
See what I'm saying?
God.
Now he's held them for 40 years.
Oh my God.
If you
try to
sell them
so
more,
what do you
sell
think,
them for more than $1 billion.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think? I don't know what a Major League Baseball franchise is worth right now.
Oh yeah, it starts in the according to Statista, they're valued at 2.05 billion. So, like I said, literal billions if you sold the team now.
$19 million. That is ridiculous.
The world has changed, my friend. If you and I had gotten together in '82, we probably could have afforded that. No, I'm just kidding. I
would have called everybody I know. Well, even then, I wouldn't have mattered. But I'm shocked by that price. I mean, that sounds like a price from this. When did he buy him?
That was like 81. It was 81.
I was going to say that sounds like a price from the 70s. Not far out of that. Smart man.
Yeah.
Smart man.
But why does he want to be bad?
I guess he just too rich to care. I guess. It's hard to figure out.
That's the part of this I can't wrap my head around. Why would you want to be unpopular?
Speaking of rich, the NCAA athletes are getting wealthy, and hey, great for them. And a lot of fans complain, and I keep hearing people, NIL has ruined. It's not NIL to me. That is, I can deal with NIL. That's money. It's the transfer portal.
Yeah, the immediate eligibility.
That is what is causing. I hate to say causing negativity, but it's also caused a lot of positives. It's a catch-22. It has made college football undoubtedly better. It has made college basketball better from the product on the floor. Now, as far as fans go, their allegiance, it's not the game that they grew up with. It's not, they love to cheer for their team. Well, that team is not what it used to be because it is a new churning team every season. And I get that, but I think fans are just going to have to get accustomed to that change. But it's a lot easier to get accustomed to that if you're behind a program that knows how to navigate this and still win. And I think that the programs that are winning, you don't hear anybody complaining.
Yeah, I think that every spring we hear how this is going to hurt college basketball or college football. It's going to become less popular. I've had it with this. And then football season comes along and more than 100 million people watch the college football playoff. And the NCAA tournament comes along and it puts up the best ratings they have in years. The Final Four was the best rating since 2019. And the first weekend of the tournament, I believe, was the best in almost a decade, more than a decade, excuse me, like early teens. It was the best since then. So I'm not seeing the fall in popularity that everybody talks about. It's just people are angry because it's not the way it used to be. Well, think about it, Jim. Okay, so it's not the way it used to be now compared to what it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it wasn't the same as it had been in the early 2000s when we had preps to pros. It was different. Like you didn't even get to see LeBron James play in college, but you did get to see Kevin Durant. Okay, so that's different. And then you go back from the preps to pros era, and then you have the Christian Laettner, Shaq era where guys played 3 and 4 years, or before that with Patrick Ewing and Chris Mullin and guys like that, where almost everybody played 4. So it's changed constantly. It's never been the same. My entire career, and it's, as you know, a fairly long career in covering college basketball, it hasn't been the same for any 7-year period. It's changed every single time. And it doesn't lose popularity. If anything, it stays somewhat stagnant, but certain elements of the game grow in popularity. I think we've seen the NCAA tournament become even more popular over time than it used to be. People look at 1979 and the television audience for Bird versus Magic being over 40 million people and say, look, that's where it peaked. It's not. Because nobody watched.
There was only 4 TV stations back then.
Exactly. That was a part of it. And there was also the part that hardly anybody was watching the early rounds then, because hardly anybody had a chance to watch the early rounds then. They were barely on TV. When I was a kid, 76 maybe, 75, 76, around there, I was a big Notre Dame fan. Why? I grew up in an Irish Catholic household. Notre Dame football was introduced to me. And then Notre Dame basketball was almost the only basketball on television when I was a kid. Like if you wanted to watch
in Pittsburgh,
in the TBS syndication, they syndicated Notre Dame games around the country.
TBS did?
TVS. It was a syndication. And they were the people who brought the Kareem versus Kelvin Hayes.
So Notre Dame was ahead of this way a long time ago.
Yeah, they were. It was TBS that saw Notre Dame's national appeal and thought they could do something with it. And so I grew up watching Austin Carr and Adrian Dantley, and I loved the game. So that was what I got to see. I mean, you couldn't see Pitt on TV. You couldn't see Duquesne on TV until they made the NCAA tournament. And around 75 or 76, I can't remember what year it was, Notre Dame's playing in the Sweet 16 against Michigan. Campy Russell playing for Michigan. Notre Dame still had Dantley. So it's around there. I didn't look that up because I didn't know we were going to talk about this. But that game was not on television, like anywhere. Like maybe in South Bend or whatever, or Indianapolis, but not in Pittsburgh. It wasn't on. And it's like you could never imagine that now. So the game has grown exponentially over that period as the game has changed dramatically. So I'm not wild about roster resets every year. I think that if there were some eventual negotiation with a player group, that one of the things that they would want to put in place would be transfer one time, you can go right away.
I don't know that the players would agree to that though, because they're taking away their freedom.
Well, I understand that, but in every negotiation, there's give and take. We want this, you get that. So I don't know what they would want to have to get in order to get that to be settled down a little bit. But I would imagine it would be money. What's it
going to take to get to that point though of just having those talks?
Well, I think it's gonna be a while, and one of the reasons it's going to be a while is there are two problems. One is the players right now have so much leverage that it would be economically problematic for them to go in that direction. That's now. If the House settlement is approved, they lose a ton of leverage because there's only so much money out there for them then. Because you can't.
That's through the schools though. Because
but you can't. Jim, in the Deloitte world, you can't just give them the same sort of NIL, what I call 2025 NIL. That doesn't exist if you have the House settlement. It can't, because everything has to be approved by the third party, Deloitte. And so, like, if you have a collective,
who's to say they're not going to approve things? I mean, they'd have to have a pretty good reason to not approve something, and then we'll see another lawsuit.
Well, that's what I said, Jim. That's what I said last week. We will be back in court in this fairly quickly, but it'll take a few years for those sorts of things to play out, because this is a court-approved settlement. So it'll take a little time for that to play out, and there's a little bit less guarantee that the player side would win this time, because this is a court settlement. This is something that's come through the courts. This isn't something the NCAA unilaterally decided and said, this is the law of the land now. This is something that's been approved by a court. So somebody would have to upend that, overrule Judge Wilkin. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But for a period of time, the players are going to lose a lot of leverage. And that's maybe when they start to say, hey, we got to get some leverage back. We got to organize. I've always believed that the schools would be resistant to negotiating in that sense, because they don't want to acknowledge them as employees. I heard an interview with a gentleman who represents an aspiring players union come up with a solution to that problem, and I think it could work. And that is that the players don't form something like the Major League Baseball Players Association or NBA Players Association or NFLPA, but instead something more like the Screen Actors Guild, where they are independent and so they are not employees of the school per se. Just as if you are, I don't know, Mike DeCourcy gets cast in a lead to play a sports writer in a movie, and they're going to make a movie about a sports writer. There's a fantasy for you. If I got cast in a lead, I work for the production. I don't work for the studio that's funding the production. That's the concept that he's proposing. And that's a workaround that I never conceived, that I never thought of. And I think we could get to that negotiation state if the Players Association is formed in that way. Because I know that the schools are resistant to having the athletes be employees. It causes all kinds of problems for them in terms of which athletes are and aren't, in terms of workers' comp and all this other kind of stuff they don't want to deal with. But if you do it in that Screen Actors Guild way, it maybe could work.
It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. We'll pick up this conversation on the other side. We've got to take a break. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox and Big Ten Networks with us here. Back with more on the other side. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Looking like it should be a little stormy in our area here in Indiana. I'm not sure what things are like where you are. I hope the sun is shining like it's always shining on Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten and Fox Networks, who's with us. Appreciate him as always. Mike, the Big Ten in basketball next season is like it will be every year going forward after what we just talked about, the transfer portal and all that. First of all, though, Brad Underwood did it again. He just pulled in Stojakovic. I mean, one of the most coveted players in the portal. And, man, he just lost two guaranteed first-round NBA draft picks off of his roster. And it seems like this is a thing every year, but that makes me think, I mean, they're competitive. They're in the top four of the Big Ten here every year of the last several years, won a couple of titles, or at least one title. So they're bumping up against that, but it's like, I hate to use this. I'm not going to use that phrase. He can't get over the hill.
Well, I think
the hill instead of hump.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the year to do that was probably 21, and they got a bad matchup and didn't deal with that matchup very well. That Loyola team still had some some guys left over from the 2018 Final Four team, and they didn't match up very well, and they didn't deal with the bad matchup very well. And because that was probably the best Illinois team that Brad's had. They won the Big Ten tournament that year. I thought they were outstanding, and you should have dealt a little better. There are people who say that Loyola should not have been in the 8-9 game. You could always go back and relitigate that, but they didn't deal very well with the bad matchup that they had, and so since they've struggled a little bit, but they did make the Elite Eight a year ago, so you have to give them that. In 2024, excuse me. I mean, they did make the Elite Eight that year, and so they have shown the capacity to win in March. Even though they've had some struggles, that showed that they are able to get deep with the right team playing the right way. So I wouldn't say that it's impossible, but this is going to be an entirely new team. And your friend Evan Miyakawa is really big on continuity. That's one of his big factors for teams that succeed at the Final Four level, get to the Final Four, have a lot of returning minutes. And it's pretty rare for teams that are completely turned over to do that well. And we saw that with the Illini this year. It took them a long time to sort of try to figure it out, and they never really got all the way there. Now, they were younger this year than they'll be next year. Next year, although they have probably even fewer holdover players, I guess they'll have Kylan Boswell and a few others. They're gonna be newer to each other, but they have a lot of guys who are in their 20s who've played a lot of basketball overseas, and so they're accustomed to playing high level basketball. It may not be NCAA Division I level. I'll be honest with you, like I don't know whether the league in Lithuania or whatever, I don't know what the level of that is. I've watched it. I remember when one of the balls went to Lithuania. And so I watched them play in that league, and it's really hard to get a feel for how good it is in such a small setting. You probably would need to be on the ground there. And that's never something I've been privileged to do, to watch European professional basketball, either at the highest level in Spain or at a mid-level somewhere else. I've never been able to watch that to get a feel for how it would compare to the competition at the Division I level. But it's certainly a good prep for playing at the Division I level at the very least.
Since you lived in Indianapolis for so long, I know the answer to this question about having you've been to the Indianapolis 500, I would imagine several times. Did you go to cover it as opposed to just going to it?
I did not cover it while I lived there. I did cover it in 1986 when I was at the Pittsburgh Press. We thought about covering it one year and they changed their minds. So I've been to the Grand Prix. I've been to the qualifying on pole day, and I did cover the race the one time, and I've been to the track on multiple occasions. I don't know what the case is now. My only complaint about the Indy 500, Jim, which I think is a fabulous
traffic getting out.
And that's not it. That's a problem. But the biggest complaint was in my 10 years in Indianapolis, how many times was I able to watch the race? That was my complaint.
Oh,
the blackout
that's still the case.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's ridiculous for a place that sells over 330,000 tickets.
Yes.
The biggest one-time gathering of any, I'm not even going to call it a sporting event. It's the biggest event on the planet.
Yes. It's indefensible that they're continuing to black that out. I shouldn't have had to move 6 hours to be able to watch the race on television. The city and the state and the region support that event to a high degree, an incredible degree, as they should. And what do they get in return? Oh, you can't watch it on TV. It's nonsense.
Yeah, terrible. And one of the things I was going to bring up is, because this is also Derby week, how fortunate we are right here to have the biggest, largest sporting event in the world and one of the other crown jewel sporting events in the world. And they both are international events. Yes. Because the drivers at Indy from all over the world, the owners at Kentucky from all over the world. And these are two gigantic events that happen 2 hours apart. And we are so fortunate to have the ability. And I know a lot of people don't like to go to those events, but let me tell you, you're missing out because they are both incredible experiences of different magnitudes.
Yes. I regret that we for all the years we lived in Cincinnati and all the years we lived in Indy, we never were able to make it to the Derby.
You got to go.
Yeah, one of these days we got to do that. We had it, like I said, we were 2.5 hours, less than 2.5 hours away in both places, and could have gotten down there. So one of these days we have to do that. It's an experience that I'm sorry I missed. But I look at they're two of the most amazing sporting events. Like you could say that's the biggest race in the world. Monaco might say otherwise. Daytona could try to argue, but I think that's the biggest race in the world. And then on the other hand, you have what is probably the biggest race in horse racing. Again, Ascot maybe could try to argue a little bit, but I don't think there's any question that it's the jewel of the Triple Crown. So to have those two events right in your area, right in one 2-hour window or corridor, pretty amazing to have that to be in that region. Those two events, two of the biggest in the world.
Absolutely. Mike, what's up next for you, brother?
What is up next for me? Today, the semifinals of Champions League. Arsenal will play against, I believe, PSG. So Paris Saint-Germain. So really
that's
cool
soccer
matchup
for you basketball heads.
Yes, soccer. Yes. So I'm looking forward to that.
Football. I should say football.
Nah. We say soccer here. It's they can say football over there, but we know that football over here means you're getting blocked or tackled. Over there, if you block and tackle the way we do here, you get in big trouble.
Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox and Big Ten Networks. Make sure you're giving him a follow, keeping up with this content. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. More coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us as he's moving him around, normally on Wednesdays, but moved him up to today. We couldn't wait. We couldn't wait anymore, Dylan.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, as always, for having me on, Jim. And I couldn't wait either, so I'm glad to be on.
Man, Indiana football is just quietly building up a nice little recruiting base. They have been adding their 2026 guys, getting commitments along the way. I think Curt Cignetti and crew have done a very, very good job of managing, going after the guys they want and not just casting this wide net. And we've seen that so much in football and basketball over the years at Indiana. Now it's actually in both sports right now. The same with Darian DeVries. He seems to really have a narrow focus on the guys he is going after. And we know that is the case with Curt Cignetti and how he approaches that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where Cignetti believes that you're going to have smaller high school recruiting classes. He wants to obviously build from the ground up with high school recruits, but he usually wants, I think, 20-ish guys and then fill in the rest with transfers, because we've seen that he's pretty good in the transfer portal as well. So having a smaller class means that you're able to be a little bit more targeted with who you get and who you go after. And I think that's what we've seen that he's been able to do. And I think it's pretty interesting because they only had one commitment before this last week, and now they have a half dozen. They might be having some more here in a couple of days, and it's starting to build on itself pretty quickly here. And I think that was kind of the plan all along, was we are not going to be heavy early. We are going to take our time. We are going to get the guys we want, and that has been the idea so far, and it seems to be working. So that is kind of the approach they've taken, and I think that's the right one.
Absolutely, and they are quietly also adding the pieces that they need right now to go forward. I've already done that to a large degree, but I noticed that D'Angelo Pons, somebody else, I forget, they were added to the roster after last year's spring game. So it's like, don't get excited, people. Just chill, relax. This portal, they can come at any time. Of course, you want them ASAP to be in time for summer workouts and whatnot, but that can continue to change. But they're getting the kinds of guys that they want in the places that they want to fill in the few gaps that they lost, but also defense just had some gaps to fill. Offense had some gaps to fill that needed to be elevated, particularly on the offensive line. I think they've done that. At quarterback, they had to replace Curtis Rourke and make sure you don't take a step back. I don't think they take a step back at all. And with a better offensive line and potentially which would afford a better running game, you could see a better passing game. Fernando Mendoza is not going to miss a beat. It has a little mobility, so he can keep some plays alive, maybe. I've said it numerous times. I think this team is a better team, and they're going to be a better team this year. So anybody that is expecting a fall off from Indiana to think that was a flash in the pan, you're going to be disappointed, because they are legit, and they are going to be one of the 5 teams, I think, in the Big Ten that are fighting for 4 spots. I saw yesterday that On3 quietly moved Iowa up into their top 25 after the spring game. I've talked about Iowa a lot because they're on Indiana's schedule. They're their first opportunity for a quality road win, but Iowa has also added a pretty damn good quarterback from South Dakota that can throw the ball. We've never seen Iowa throw the ball. So if they were to add that dimension, a lot of people don't think that Kirk Ferentz will do that. At this point, I think Kirk Ferentz says, BS, throw it. Let's do it. Whatever it takes. I think he has been riding this, God, I don't want to say a wave of mediocrity, because Iowa, they've always been solid.
Yeah.
That's all they've kind of been, is solid. They haven't really had this big old jump. And I think he would like to see a big old jump before he walks away. And he is definitely close to the sunset of his career. So can you imagine an Iowa team coming out, throwing the damn ball all over the place, but still having that Iowa defense that you're accustomed to seeing, and possibly the running game to go with it?
Yeah, I'm interested in that, because I do think that their offense is evolving. They brought in a new offensive coordinator last year, and they went from like 125th to like 70th in kind of offensive efficiency, which is a huge jump, even though that only gets you to mediocrity. Right now, they're going to try to take another jump into being a good offense with a defense that is always good. Right, they have one of the best defensive coordinators in the country in Phil Parker. So you bring in the kid from South Dakota State, who is a legend, FCS two-time national champion, I believe he is, and he's out there. He can throw, he can run too. That's the other thing with Iowa, is they don't really have a whole lot of quarterback run game very often. They haven't had that in quite a while. Basically, the last time you're looking at Iowa having a pretty high level quarterback is C.J. Beathard in the mid 2010s, and even then it was kind of like, he's pretty good, right? This kid from South Dakota State, really, really good player. Question is health with him. He comes into the season, he was hurt a little bit last year. Unclear whether he's going to be able to start right away or whether he's going to miss some time. So we'll have to see. But I do think Iowa's going for it. They're evolving, and like you said, they've been stuck in good for a long time, and that's fine, right? Like a lot of good teams, 10 good teams in a row is pretty darn good for your program if you're Iowa. But how do you get to very good? How do you get to playoff good, right? And I think that, I mean, quite frankly, if you're Iowa and you've been sitting there at 9-3 or 8-4 for most of the last, decade and a half, and then you look at what Kurt Cignetti did in his first year at Indiana, it's like, why can't that be us, right? What is the reason we can't be doing what they did? And so now the pressure is on to level up a little bit, right? And so I'm fascinated by that. Indiana's going to have to go into Kinnick, one of the toughest places to play in the entire country, and it's going to be a test of their mettle pretty early in the season. Same thing. I have the same questions about Illinois, right? The on 3 rankings you were talking about has Illinois as a preseason top 10 team. They are number 9 in those new rankings. Yes.
I knew they were going to be a
CFP, a team that's
challenged for a CFP spot.
Last year, and they return everybody from that team. Yes. So I'm really interested. That's an early season game also for Indiana that they are going to have to go out there, and it's going to be a test right away. If they go out there and win that game, the hype train for another Indiana playoff run is going to get off the rails pretty quickly, right? So unlike last season where it was kind of a slow build, you had basically had a better opponent every week for the first 8 weeks of the season until you got to the really, really good teams down the stretch. I do think that this season you're going to get some early indications of how good Indiana really is. They're going to get the tune-up games early with the 3 non-conference games. You should win those easily, but then you smack right into Illinois in that 4th game. How good are you? Let's see it.
Yeah, I've talked about the schedule and how it lays out and how difficult it gets for Indiana fast. Illinois, that team we just talked about, the first Big Ten game, Indiana opens up Big Ten play. Luckily for the Hoosiers, it's at home because the last time Illinois came to Indiana, they lost a game that probably Brett Bielema is still pissed about, to be honest with you. A game that they could have won. But anyway, you get this Illinois team, you win that game, then that should give you some good mojo, some good juju, because you are going to Iowa next. And I remember quite well the last time Indiana went to Iowa. We all went there with expectations that Indiana was up to the challenge. Michael Penix was at quarterback, and man, it did not take long at all to say, whoa, wait, what's going on here? It was just a house of cards that crumbled. that's not going to be the case. I think that could be a fascinating matchup because Iowa is also known for always having a good secondary.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's been their calling card for what, 15 years now. They just in the last couple of years, they put Riley Moss and Cooper DeJean in the NFL. They have a lot of guys in that secondary who are really good just about every season. It's one of those things where if you can, they're not usually great. And I haven't dug a ton into Iowa, so I don't want to say with definitively what they're going to be good at generally next year. But generally speaking, what Iowa does is they are really good in the secondary, and they're just a little bit softer on the defensive line. So if you can run the ball at them and play keep away from that secondary, generally speaking, you're going to be in pretty good shape. And so I think that goes back to your point about the improved offensive line. Can that offensive line move people up front in the run game and make it so that Fernando Mendoza doesn't have to take shots down the field? Because Iowa wants you to take shots. That's what they want to put the pressure on you, and they want to make sure that you are going to throw the ball into harm's way. And so if you can run the ball, that's what Michigan was able to do against them in the Big Ten championship game. Those couple of years they played Michigan won those games easily because they didn't have to throw the ball downfield hardly at all. They were just able to kind of run it down Iowa's throat for 3, 4, 5 yards at a time the entire game and just kind of choke the life out of them. I would like – Indiana didn't really do that against anyone last year. I would like to see them maybe do that this season, again, with that improved offensive line that you talked about, with a couple of running backs who I am really excited about after the spring game. I think Lee Beebe is going to get some carries in this offense for Indiana. He is a good player in that game. Roman Hemby, I think, is a bulldozer guy who can get you 3-4 yards at a time.
And good out of the backfield. Both
yes.
Hemby and Hemby were both good out of the backfield catching the ball. And I got to be honest, boy, you get Hemby out in the flats with a pass, I ain't wanting to tackle him.
No,
he's going to have a head of steam up. By that time, you've got a good 10-yard sprinting head of steam coming up. And man, if you're a cornerback, yeah, I'm not wanting either. I don't want none of that.
And then you add in Kaelon Black, who's coming back, and had a little bit of a role last year and is going to have a bigger one this year. I was impressed by him.
How about that run he had up the middle?
He
was shot out of a cannon.
He turned on those jets, and it was game over. That was really, really interesting to see. So that you got, again, just like last year, you have 3 guys that you can really split carries between, and you'll probably get it down to 2 at some point during the season. That's kind of what happened last year, where Ellison, Lawton, and Black kind of came into the season as 1A, 1B, and 1C. And by the end of the season, it was mostly Lawton and Ellison who were getting carries. I think you're going to see that again this year. One of those guys is probably going to slip down to the number 3 spot, but it really is good going into a season to have 3 guys who you really trust. I think IU really trusts all 3 of those guys to carry the ball, to catch the ball out of the backfield, and to make plays. And as you said, again, behind that offensive line that they really worked on improving this offseason, let's go get a run game together, right? Like last year, I thought the run game was good in spurts. Obviously, Lawton and Ellison were really good individually. I never thought the run game came together kind of overall. And a lot of times late in the season, you were kind of relying on the pass game. So I would like to see a little bit more consistency from the run game this year. I think they have the line and the backs to do that.
Tyrone says Drew Adams has signed a memorandum of understanding to be an assistant coach. I guess we'll get to that later on. There's other basketball news for Indiana coming here. We'll talk about that in just a little bit because I think that information is coming in like 7 minutes. But and it will be another. Well, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Josh Harris, I believe, is expected to commit to Indiana here in a little bit, which would give them their 11th edition, but he's another 6'8" guy. And they're running out of dude, though. But they're running out of
dude, though.
I get it, but don't you have to have, I mean, these teams, so many of them are built, everybody has a 6'11", 7-footer.
Yeah.
And not every 6'11", 7-footer are the same. I get that. But the ones that are good are either the ones that's like Zach Edey, a guy you cannot move. Well, Indiana wouldn't have anything for that.
Yeah.
But if it's a guy that moves around, that still makes it difficult. If you've got a 6'8" guy trying to stay up on a 7-footer that can get a shot up, I'm sure that he knows what he wants to do. It's just an unusual roster construction. I guess overall it's not. It's just that one detail. It's different, but maybe it's a hill that he is going to climb and want to die on.
Yeah, I'm interested because, okay, what do they want to do with Reed Bailey is my question, right? Because Reed Bailey is 6'11". He's every bit of 6'11". The problem with Reed Bailey is that he is not a rim protector. He is not an elite rebounder. So you're looking at a guy who is big but doesn't play like a really big guy. He plays like a stretch 4. Now, he's a good 3-point shooter on low volume. The question I think for Indiana is, can you be a good 3-point shooter on high volume? Can you be a decent 3-point shooter on high volume? Can you shoot 36% from deep on 3 or 4 attempts a game? I think that would be a huge deal if Bailey could do that. I've said all along, I think the Indiana needs to get a big guy to play not next to him, but more kind of a complement to him. If you are struggling on the glass, if you're struggling to protect the rim, if you're struggling to defend, can you get someone in there? I still think Federico from Texas Tech is an option for them.
But I think he committed to Texas A&M. Somebody may have said earlier.
Did he commit to Texas A&M?
I did not see that. Someone posted it on the comments side.
So okay. So, but someone like that, right? There are probably other guys out there that they're looking at, but that someone like that who can rebound, who can defend under the glass, and who can just kind of make things a little bit difficult in the paint. Because that, as you said, that is the thing Indiana is missing to me right now, is someone who really kind of mucks things up in the middle. So I'm interested in how they go about solving that problem, because again, they still have a couple of roster spots available, right? And I think they probably will get someone who does that kind of thing. But then even when you get someone like that, do you plan to start them? Do you play Bailey at the 4? Do you start Bailey at the 5 and then bring in the guy off the bench if the game calls for it? I'm going to be interested the entire offseason on how they go about solving that problem, because it is a team that is going to be very guard and perimeter heavy with a lot of playmaking, which can be good. But then you have this other part of this where you need to play defense under the post sometimes, especially in the Big Ten. And we're going to see how they go about solving that problem.
Yeah, on that end, it is going to bring up a question. But on the other end, it's an advantage, because now you've got this big that is chasing some 6'8" guy or even a 6'7" guy or whatever. But he's chasing him around. He's not going to be stationary by the basket. And on top of that, they're going to be running a motion style offense that is going to keep movement, constant movement, getting the big guy away from the rim, opening up the passing, scoring, and rebounding lanes. So I think this is going to be a team that relies heavily on offensive rebounding, especially because you're going to be seeing so many more 3-point attempts. And with more 3-point attempts, you're going to see more offensive rebounding opportunities, especially longer rebounds. That happens quite frequently with 3-point shooting teams.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because that is, to some extent, that's how teams have won in the past couple of years in the NCAA tournament. But on the other hand, that is not how teams have generally won in the Big Ten. The Big Ten especially, you generally speaking need to have a bruiser down there of some kind, right? You need to have a Zach. It's interesting because Purdue didn't have one this past year. That was kind of the problem for them, was they didn't have a guy like that, although Caleb Furst was that to a certain extent, right? But Michigan had one. Illinois had one this past year. It's one of those things where that's generally speaking what you needed in the Big Ten, because it's such a rough and tumble league. Just someone to kind of throw some elbows in there, not in a literal sense, but in a figurative sense in the middle. And right now, Indiana doesn't have that. And so I'm interested to see, again, how they go about solving that problem of how do you play in the Big Ten versus how do you play if you make the NCAA tournament? What is most effective in one versus the other? Because that's been a problem for the Big Ten over the years, is that what is most effective in the Big Ten is often not what's most effective in the Big Ten tournament. And we've seen some really, really good Big Ten teams struggle in March because of that. And so I'm interested to see what Indiana is trying to do with that and how they're trying to balance that issue, because it's a problem for everyone in the Big Ten, and it's something that every new coach at a Big Ten school has to solve for.
Man, can you imagine if we see Indiana actually playing deep into the Big Ten tournament? I wouldn't know what to do. They've been to the championship game one time, and I am already imagining a situation to where, I'm not saying it's this year, but they just haven't been competitive in that event, which if you're not competitive in that event, it just doesn't, it tells me you're not going to be competitive in the NCAA tournament. And I don't mean that you can't lose. That happens all the time, especially, you see a team that is a really high seed, they lose. They don't care. I mean, it's not that they don't care. They've got a bigger focus because they know they are going to be competitive in the NCAA tournament. But it would be nice to see an Indiana team that just has that start to end finish of playing from the preseason through non-con, not winning by 8 points against Florida Gulf Coast, not winning by 9 points against Army, and all of this stuff, which is part of what has kept Indiana out of the last 2 NCAA tournaments. But they need to start beating the crap out of these teams, getting into non-con play, being competitive, getting some wins, and then hitting the Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, I do think that is one thing that I would put down as a goal right now for Coach DeVries' first team is no matter how they finish the roster out here, go out and win a bye game by 35 or 40 points. Just go out and lay the absolute wood to somebody, because they did not do that all of last season. The biggest margin, basically one of the biggest margins of victory they had last season was 15 points against Purdue in their game in February. It was just that was the best they played the entire year was against Purdue. It was just a really weird situation these last couple of seasons where they couldn't put those teams away, right? There were some games where they just didn't play well at all. But with Purdue, with this past season, they would go up by 20 points and they let the other team get back in the game. They go up by 20, they let them get back in the game. So it's interesting because that really, as you said, really hurt their metrics and probably kept them out of the Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament to some extent. So that would be a goal that I would mark down for Coach DeVries right now. Go out and win your bye games by 40. Just do it. Whatever happens the rest of the season, what happens the rest of the season, go out and win those bye games by 40, and that'll buy you some good grace from the fans immediately.
Coolio asking, where is the Adams news? Earlier, someone had posted that Drew Adams had agreed to a memorandum of agreement to become an assistant coach. I don't have that yet. I'll try to pull that up for a fact. But Coolio was asking, well, where is that link? I don't know yet. We're looking for it. The idea that he would be demoted to a non-assistant was very bizarre. Well, first of all, I hardly find there are roles that are hardly demotions. Being an assistant coach, I guess you can look at it differently, but in today's day and age, there are different roles now. There's going to be a GM of sorts, and in essence, the head of recruiting, which that is what the assistant coaches generally do. They're not there to the head coach. That's the guy that has the vision. That's the guy that has the plan. That's the guy that lays out what he wants done. It's not the assistant coaches. Their bigger job is recruiting. And now, do they work with players? Of course they do. But who says that they have a great skill in jump shots or whatever the case may be? If their skill is recruiting, and we do know that Drew Adams is very, very good in that area, I don't see that as a demotion now because of the roles that are being created. Hell, he could probably make more money as a GM than he could as an assistant. I don't know.
Yeah, I have. So we're asking where the link is. The Daily Hoosier reported it yesterday that he has signed a memorandum of understanding that they haven't announced it officially yet, but they've obtained the MOU by FOIA request, and he is going to be making $400,000 per year, which is more than any Indiana assistant made in the entire Mike Woodson tenure. So they obviously value Drew Adams pretty significantly.
Except
here.
For Dane Fife.
It says Dane Fife made 375. And Adams is making 400. So he is making even more.
What about Thad Matta?
Thad Matta was not technically an assistant. I don't know how much he made during that year.
I'm pretty sure it was 400,000.
Yeah, he was the assistant athletic director for basketball operations, I believe it was Thad Matta's official title. But yes, so Adams has officially signed a memorandum of understanding with IU. They have not made the announcement yet, but that apparently is done. So, and then also to your point just a second ago, Jim, Indiana, there are reports now that they have landed Josh Harris. So that will be 11 players on the roster for next season.
Yep, 11 so far, getting closer and closer to that line. Go to thehoosier.com. Alec Lasley and crew, they are working on that right now. I'm pretty certain, as that story is just now coming out, is Indiana looking to land another fish for Darren DeVries. What are they going to get in Josh Harris? Comes from is he from North Florida or Florida?
North Florida, same as just
he was a coveted target for a lot of teams.
Yes, he was. It's interesting. This is the second or third time this has happened where Indiana has hosted a guy on a visit, and then he was supposed to go visit somewhere else, and he has canceled those visits, just committed to IU, because he was supposed to go visit Miami of Florida later this week, and he apparently has canceled that visit, and he's committed to IU. That's the same thing that happened with who's the kid from Drexel? Jason Drake.
With us yesterday.
Yeah, he was supposed to be. I think he was supposed to visit St. John's after his visit to IU, and they canceled that one. So it is one of those things where Indiana's coaching staff is doing a really good job on some of these visits of just convincing these guys, hey, this is the place you want to be. I think that's a pretty good sign for this coaching staff. But for Harris specifically, part of the reason he's so coveted is because he has 3 years of eligibility left. He was a true freshman last year, averaged 13 points and 7 rebounds on 56% shooting. That's a good player. Like that is basically high school recruiting by another name. That's kind of how I've been thinking about it. Is you have guys who are 1 year rentals from the transfer portal this year, and you have guys that have 2 or 3 years of eligibility, and that's just high school recruiting by another name, essentially, right? These guys are going to be part of your future plans. I think that Josh Harris is going to be a good piece this year, but a significant piece in the years to come after that.
And Josh Drake, who you mentioned and was on with us yesterday, also with multiple years of remaining eligibility. So that's good to see. But yeah, there are multiple stories already up at thehoosier.com, complete with a scouting report and whatnot. But they have added more depth to the front court with the addition of North Florida forward Josh Harris. He was ranked as a 4-star transfer, the number 122nd overall player in the portal. That ain't too shabby because there were like 2,000 in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And not too shabby, especially for a guy who probably is going to come off the bench, right? If that's your guy who's your 6th or 7th guy, that's pretty impressive to me. The way they've been able to convince guys who are probably going to come off the bench for them to come, and guys who are pretty high level recruiting rankings. And I know you don't want to take the recruiting rankings as gospel, but that to me is pretty impressive, is guys who had chances to go elsewhere, maybe play immediately a little bit more. IU has been able to get some of these guys to come in and take some bench roles, which I think that is going to be a huge deal for them going into the next season, because right now they are pretty deep at basically every position except for center. So we talked about that earlier. They need some centers. They need some guys in the middle. But every other position has 2, 3, 4 guys that could come in and play pretty significant minutes, I think. And so that to me is a really good sign for the way this team has been constructed so far.
And Indiana still has, I don't think that Federico has committed anywhere. So he appears to still be a potential possibility. And you got Baba Miller out there. Now, if they were able to add one of those guys, now you're talking about a potential top 5 portal recruiting class there. If you can add the right pieces to that. But Josh Harris, in and of itself, he's a rebounder. His rebounding rate, pretty daggone high. A year ago, 16.7%. I think that the numbers I was looking at for like Trace Jackson Davis, an offensive rebounding rate of 13.8.
Yeah.
These are like substantial. I think like Trace Jackson Davis was 10% as a senior.
Yeah.
So these guys are hungry. And that's the thing. If you can bring in a bunch of hungry guys, and if they can all stay hungry, now that's going to be like jumping into a pool of what are the fish that eat you?
Piranhas.
That's like jumping into a piranha pool, baby. You're just going to be surrounded by guys that are just always on you. And Indiana hasn't had that. Ferocious defense, just guys that are everywhere, rebounding coming from everywhere. And I think that's part of what will mitigate not having your traditional big, which I'm not saying that they won't have a big guy, but they're going to mitigate that regardless with this kind of athleticism.
Yeah, I think that goes hand in hand with what Scott Dolson talked about in the opening press conference for Darren DeVries was his teams play really doggone hard. That is what attracted Scott Dolson to DeVries originally. Remember, he said he saw it when DeVries was at Drake. He saw him in the NCAA tournament against Miami that year. He saw it at West Virginia in the Bahamas this past year. So that's what really attracted him was DeVries gets guys who play really doggone hard and they play hard together as a team, and it just makes it really hard for opponents. Even when they don't end up winning, you come away from the game thinking, dang, that was a really hard game for us to play. We had to give everything we had in order to win that one. And so I think that is something that Indiana hasn't had in a little bit here, as a team that just plays really, really hard across the board. I'm not saying they haven't had guys who played really hard because they have. But it's one of those things where just as a team-wide culture, it hasn't been, we are going to wear you out over 40 minutes. And I think that is something that we might see with Indiana this year.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Josh Harris, the latest commitment from North Florida. We're going to take a quick break. Boy, that went on. Did not plan to make that one so long, Dylan. Sorry about that. But we'll be back with a little bit more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on the other side of this break, if I can ever find it.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, FreeThink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along for the ride. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us. And if you're just joining us, Josh Harris just became the latest member of the Indiana basketball program, signing and becoming the 10th or the 11th player? I'm starting to lose track.
It's the 10th player in the portal, 11th player overall if you include Trent Sisley.
So now we have to wonder, are they just going to go to the 13 scholarship spot of old or go over that to 15? It's hard to tell. I think once they get to 13, they'll just play it by ear. If something comes along, great. But you would think that they would want those guys in there for bodies for practice.
Yeah, it's interesting because we still don't know exactly what they're going to do with the roster limits for next year, because the House settlement has said they're going to – the football has kind of been the flashpoint for this, but it obviously affects every sport, where they said they want to do 105, but that means that some walk-ons might be cut. And so the judge basically said, hey, I'm not going to approve the settlement unless you figure out some way to grandfather in these walk-ons so they don't lose their spots. And the NCAA and the member conferences and the schools have been trying to formulate a response to that. So right now that is what is holding up the House settlement, is how they're going to do these rosters for next year. And it's interesting because no one knows. Like that is the thing, is they are trying to figure this out. And for football, for basketball, these teams are trying to finalize their rosters right now. And so I talked to Marcus Freeman last week he kind of held a end of spring practice summit at Notre Dame, and someone asked him basically, do you plan on having 105? Do you plan on having more or less? He basically said, we have a plan for if they do 105. We have a plan for if they keep it the way it is, and we'll just kind of go one way or the other. But it's holding up teams from finalizing plans. And so Indiana, as you said, they are trying to maybe get to 13. That would leave them 2 open scholarships right now. Depending on the Luke Goody situation, they might be able to go to 15 if the scholarship limit changes. We'll have to see. But it is one of those things where they still don't know, and that is the House settlement being held up is a significant deal for some of these programs.
Yeah, because you're going in to the fall, and I wonder, is that based? Are there? I don't want to use the word promises, but hey, NIL arrangements that have been made banking on that being a reality.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's not going to come. Even the judge said, hey, I'm good with everything else.
Yep.
You just got to fix this, which I'm sure that they'll fix it. They'll just say, okay, those guys are grandfathered in. That's a pretty easy fix. Otherwise, you're holding the whole parade up. So I would imagine, I would be surprised if it takes them long, but they have to, because June's not that far away. Athletes will arrive. And if they don't have that settled, then especially the football players, yeah, hey, where's my money, bro?
I think that's exactly what it is. It's like you're going to have these, like, this is
the ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the.
I don't know how I did that. Sorry about that.
But yeah, you are. This is supposed to go into effect in the fall, right? They have been dealing with this settlement for basically 2 years now. This is supposed to go into effect in the fall of 2025. We are about 3 months away, not even, from the start of fall camp for a lot of football teams, right? So we are getting into the nitty gritty of, you need to start preparing for things. As you said, guys are going to get here in June. We're about 5 to 6 weeks away from football players arriving for summer workouts and being actually ready to go with the next year's team. And we still don't have a firm, yes, the House settlement is approved. We're going to do the revenue sharing for next year. We're going to do the NIL clearinghouse through Deloitte. We're going to do all this stuff that we've been planning on. Still is not officially approved. And so they need to get this done pretty quickly here. And the judge has basically said, hey, we're on the clock here. You guys got to figure this out and get back to me pretty soon. So I would like to think that there are lawyers working overtime behind the scenes to figure out a way to get these guys grandfathered in.
Would you say you'd like to think that there are lawyers working overtime? Yeah, are you kidding me?
Well,
you know what overtime means? Triple time the ridiculous price that I was already charging you per hour.
That's a lot of billable hours that are going to come through here in the next in the couple weeks coming up here. But yeah, we're you can see the light at the end of the tunnel with the settlement. Still not approved yet. So that is something that needs to get done here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's especially but I wonder, they can't go too far because of all the issues I just brought up. And it wouldn't be, and luckily it would not be just one school or program that would hit. So it would be everybody at the same time. But let's, just for devil's advocate, if that were to drag on, guys would be seriously going, hey, you know, a little something, you know, for the effort.
You have to think so, right? It's what like they a lot of these guys have signed thinking I'm gonna get X amount of money once the revenue sharing era kicks in. And by all accounts, that's everything we've been told. Everything that is planned for is the revenue sharing era starts with the start of the football season in the fall. And so the guys who sign deals, that basically the idea seems to be for a lot of these guys is the deal doesn't kick in until the house settlement comes through, but the house settlement's going to come through, so the deal's going to kick in. You can rely on it, right? And so if this, for some reason, drags on and the judge says, I'm not really happy with what you got here, we're gonna go back to the drawing board, that's a big problem for next season. It's going to throw everything into a huge amount of chaos. Now, that is a very, very small possibility because, as you said, the judge is fine with basically everything except this roster thing where they want to do phase-ins, and she's like, no. Or basically, they want to do it immediately, and she wants phase-ins. And so that seems like it'll get done. Again, we have lawyers working overtime behind the scenes, a lot of billable hours getting taken care of. But it is something where there is this looming kind of nuclear option in the background, like 1%, 2%, that everything gets thrown into chaos because the settlement isn't approved. So every administrator in the country has their fingers crossed right now that this settlement gets approved within the next couple of weeks.
Well, not just administrators, but coaches.
Yes.
Because if you think coaches don't hear this, you're out of your mind.
100%. Because they have their plans for the rosters next season. Again, 1% chance, 2% chance, whatever number you want to put on it. There is a chance that everything gets thrown up into the air, and we have a whole situation where a lot of these deals that these guys signed to come to certain schools are just not, they're not going to be enforceable because the revenue sharing era doesn't hit. So, boy, that would be interesting, but I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, it certainly would. So while it's busy as all get out, the month of May is just stupid busy. Luckily in June, it kind of slows down, but players start arriving, athletes, the student athletes, all football, basketball, all start arriving on campus for summer workouts, the summer camp for Indiana football. The basketball team will come together for the first time with a group of guys that have never been together. Talked with Jason Drake yesterday about that. He talked about that it is difficult bringing all those guys together because you have to figure out who works well with whom and who does what, and especially on this team, because of how fast I think the ball is going to move and the amount of options, it could be tricky getting that together fast.
That is something that I've been wondering for IU, is that they are obviously going to try to play a style of play that is fast, that is reliant on ball movement, that is reliant on shooting, and that's great. I think that is a path to success, right? But does that get more difficult when you have all these new guys? Is it going to take some time for them to build some chemistry? Because I think Jason Drake was right on. What he said to you was it's a little bit more difficult to get these guys together and play a system that is built on chemistry when they've never played together before. So I'm interested in seeing how they navigate this offseason and early in the regular season. I do wonder whether there's going to be some growing pains for this team, because it is a system that theoretically is built on ball movement, built on shooting, built on getting the ball up and down the court. And that can be something that's a little bit difficult when you don't know where a guy is going to be in the pick and roll, right? You don't know where a guy wants the ball as a shooter. If you're Connor Enright or you're Tatum Conaway and you're trying to kick the ball out to a shooter, one of the million shooters they have on this team, where do they want the ball? Where are they going to sink when they've taken a flare screen and they're trying to get down to the corner, right? Where are they going to be? Those are things that you learn through playing together over a period of time. Indiana's on the clock with that kind of thing. I'm interested to see how they can get through and get together, and whether that's going to happen quickly or if it's going to take into December, January before they really hit their stride.
We'll certainly find out, brother. What is up next for you, man?
Yeah, obviously, we'll have plenty of coverage at the Journal-Gazette today about Josh Harris, about the Indiana roster situation as it currently stands. And then I'm getting into Tin Caps coverage for the season. The Fort Wayne Tin Caps up here in the Midwest League High A. We're covering those on a daily basis. So check it out at journalgazette.net.
Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We appreciate you, my friend. Have a good rest of your week.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Thank you, my friend. More up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Grateful to have you along as always. Just looking at some different things out in the sports world. One of my favorites has been the story about Bill Belichick, who was hired as the football coach at and before I forget, that reminds me, Shaq was hired to be the GM for like Portland State or something. Was that real? But anyway, Bill Belichick, the new North Carolina coach, former New England Patriot, that same one. You know, he brought in his son as DC, no big deal. His son was the DC at Washington. But the big deal is he's got a girlfriend that is like 40 years younger than him, which again, hey, no big deal. It's a great gig if you can get it. But the problem is she does not work for North Carolina. She does not work for the football program. But yet, Bill Belichick has instructed that she be included on emails. And now is not only included on emails, but is been sending emails. And it's becoming an issue. Now, this is from Yahoo, but they got the report from TMZ. But hey, it's nonetheless more accurate. But there's a book tour interview, I think, that he was doing. And apparently it was with CBS. And she instructed him to not talk about how they met. And she would continue to interrupt him multiple times, interrupting him when it came to issues about football. And it seems like a crazy thing. She's not employed in any capacity by the football program, but she receives and sends the emails. She was heavily involved in negotiations, apparently, with NFL films regarding a potential documentary infomercial regarding the UNC program. Again, this is a school that is allowing someone to run things that obviously you have fear of, but you're doing nothing about. Apparently this has been simmering for a while, and that CBS interview maybe have brought it to a full bore, but we will certainly see. But that's kind of weird. It's not kind of weird. It's really weird. And there was apparently that CBS interview that she stormed out. She delayed shooting for 30 minutes. It's a National Enquirer story. So, boy, he better win is all I got to say. You better win. And then a report also, where is this coming from? Pro Football Talk? That says multiple owners told their teams to take Shedeur Sanders off of the NFL draft board. Now that the dust is settled, and I've read this in other places, so this does not surprise me, but Jacqueline Hendricks of the New York Post, former NFL quarterback and longtime NFL analyst Boomer Esiason, both addressed the issue during his morning show on WFAN up in New York. When you listen to this kid right prior to the combine about how if you want a new culture in your locker room, I'm the guy to do that. I can turn it around. He's very high on himself, and I think he's very off-putting to many coaches and general managers in the league, Esiason said. I've read that a lot, that he has got this unbelievable level of entitlement for a guy who went 16-15 in college. He didn't win jack. I'm telling you right now, and I know this after talking to 3 different personnel people in the NFL this weekend, they didn't even have him on their board. They took him off, and they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. I don't want this entitled person on our team, and I don't blame him. It had nothing to do with any of that other crap that was put out there. And that's what aggravates me. Every time things don't go right for somebody now, oh, they're the victim. How about you're just not that good? How about a lot of other quarterbacks got drafted? You think the fact that he built this deal for his draft party just goes right to talk exactly about this. But it's not his fault. This is Prime Time's fault. Deion Sanders created that. This is not NIL. This is not the transfer portal. This is straight how you are raised, man, and how you have been made to believe. He's played only for his dad in a protected system. And he also had the Heisman Trophy winner on his team. Put a lot of blame on guys when things didn't go well, whether it was the offensive line or whatever, but there's that. Now he gets to wind up in Cleveland after Cleveland had already taken a quarterback in the draft. So just kind of a little bit of irony there. We'll see. We shall see. The Colts took a tight end in the draft, the guy that they needed and wanted. So hopefully that works out well for the Colts as well. Oh, mercy. It's a little warm today. But Indiana filling out its basketball roster slowly but surely now, as they have added another player to it. As we've talked about already today, Josh Harris, the most recent commitment to Darren DeVries and the Hoosiers, a 6'8" beast. Man, Brett Sisley's going to have some guys to bang on, or they're going to have the guy to bang. These guys are, it's a hell of a mix. It's going to be a very athletic team. I mean, I think it's going to be an athletic team, a gritty team. They're going to have to play with grit. But you should always play that way. If you're not, well, that's a reflection of the coach first. But I do. And how about the Shaquille O'Neal thing? That's real. The report says that Shaquille O'Neal accepting Sacramento State general manager role. Why Sac State? He's reportedly accepted the general manager's role for Sacramento State's men's basketball team, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. This will be a voluntary role for O'Neal. His son, Shakir, plays for the Hornets now, okay, under head coach Mike Bibby, former NBAer. Shakir committed to the Hornets in March, 2 days after entering the transfer portal after playing one season for Florida A&M. He began his career at Texas Southern, where he played 2 seasons. So that answers that question. I'd wondered why. Man, another great day. Cannot thank each and every one of you guys enough. Big thanks to Mike DeCourcy, Dylan Sinn. Most importantly, each and every one of you. We're back tomorrow to do it again. Rick Bozich will be with us. And we'll see what else we can scare up, as we're always trying to spice it up. Go out and have yourselves an absolute, incredibly great day. Until tomorrow, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.